It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, where we continue to discuss incredible classic beers and give them the praise and love that they so rightfully deserve. And this week we're talking about Finestkind IPA from Smuttynose. Now listen, I have not seen this beer in my home market in Florida in a very, very long time. In fairness, the package is very different than the beer that I remember. It's possible it's been on the shelves for a while, but I have the sneaking suspicion that they were out of the market for a while and just got back in. But I was thrilled. I was combing through the shelves at Total Wine and More in Boca Raton, and I saw this and one other one that I love that we're going to be featuring here sometime in the near future. But I saw Finestkind IPA, and this was a beer that I adored from my early exploration into craft beer. An IPA that I absolutely loved. It was a maltier kind of East Coast, West Coast hybrid IPA. We had that nice malt bill. The color has more of those kind of orangish amber hues to it, as opposed to the West Coast IPAs that were much more stripped down and really high in bitterness. This kind of has the maltiness and the bitterness together. It's a refreshing beer to have at this moment in the IPA world because we're so inundated with juicy, hazy IPAs that are all tropical fruit. And this really gives you that malt flavor and the bitterness together, which I so adore. And Smuttynose in general, just a fantastic brewery. They've been around since 1994. They are a brewery that I used to have so many beers from. I used to trade beers from. A lot of beers, unfortunately, don't even have in production anymore. I look at like they had a great Imperial Stout, a great Baltic Porter. There's a really cool thing on their website where you can go back and look at some of their past retired beers. They had a great wheat wine, Scotch ale. I mean, just really good beers. And now I see Robust Porter is still in the mix, but really not a lot of the beers that I remember the most. I know a lot of breweries have to change and move on with the times, but I will always miss those really incredible beers from Smuttynose that I had back in the day. But back to the Finestkind, this is a really great IPA because of the balance, because of the complexity, because it's not trying to just do one thing. I feel like so many IPAs are either trying to just be, I mean, maybe back in the day, just trying to be bitter for bitter's sake. They want to explode with 150 IBUs, most of which you can't even taste. And now we're looking toward, we want juicy, we want tropical, we want nothing else. The classic IPAs from breweries like this that have been doing this for a long time should deliver you subtlety and complexity and give you a lot of different flavors. I'm still getting a lot of piney, resinous kind of flavors, which are traditional hop flavors from that time. I believe you had Simcoe in this beer, Amarillo in this beer, bittered with Magnum, Centennial. So it's classic hops that were really all the rage around the time this beer was first created, but they're timeless. There's a reason why they're so good. There's a reason why the traditional hops from like the Czech Republic and Germany are still being used today, because they do such a good job, and this beer absolutely proves that. I am so excited to see this beer back on the shelves. I remember back in the day, it was their labels are so interesting. They had a lot of photographs on the labels, and it wasn't just graphics. And the original one, you can kind of barely see it here in this. You see the two kind of silhouettes there of two guys sitting on almost like lawn chairs out in the front yard, and it was just a picture of two older gentlemen, and it was so stark on the shelf. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, whatever that is, it's weird, I gotta buy that. And it really sparked my interest originally, and led to a love affair with this brewery that I recently talked about. I do with some partners of mine, United We Drink podcast. We talk about craft beer issues, and we did a episode just a few months ago, I think it was, about beers that we miss, beers that we loved back in the day that we can't get down here or have been retired. And we spent probably 10-15 minutes just talking about Smuttynose, me and my partner Mike Urevich. If you're interested in that, you can go to unitedwedrink.com. You can follow the podcast, and you can see some of that content and listen to us talk about craft beer basically every other week. But enough of the plugs for that. Smuttynose, wonderful brewery. If you have the opportunity to pick up anything from them, you're not going to be disappointed. This beer is great, but because I've had such a great experience with so many of their beers in the past that I miss and love, I look at their current lineup, which I haven't had very many of, but they're going to be good. So if you're lucky enough to have this beer available in your area, please go down there and pick it up, give them a try. Looking at beer pairings with food, this is something I would love to do. I had recently a kind of a hot honey chorizo pizza, so like a nice pizza with chorizo, hot honey drizzled over the top, so you've got like kind of that smoky, sweet, and spicy going on all the time. This would be a perfect beer for that. I was sipping this and going, that's what I want right now for lunch, is I want to have these two things together. So I think that when you're looking at spiciness, a little bit of sweetness, dishes like that will complement this really well. Kind of robust foods, because this is a 6.9% ABV. This is not a 5% or a 6%er. It's getting up there almost in double IPA territory. And with that sweeter, bigger malt bill, it can handle kind of richer dishes. Sometimes IPAs can get lost with bigger, heavy, richer dishes like that, but this one is not going to be any danger of that. So if you're picking up this and you want to go out and do some richer like Indian foods or things of that nature, I think it would go really well with that as well. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us again. Please tell us what we should be drinking next week for Old Favorite Friday. Is there a new beer or a beer you love that just showed back up on your shelves and you want to tell us about it and see if we can get our hands on it? We'd love to hear about it. Please poke around the channel, see longer conversations about these great beers. Beers like this that really, really deserve to be featured and praised. Just because they've been around for 20 some years doesn't mean they're not absolutely incredible. And this beer's been around for 20 years now, which just makes me feel old. But anyway, we'll see you next week for Old Favorite Friday. Cheers.